All right, so I had this thought the other day that there was several tips that I have kind of covered in various videos, but they're kind of buried. So I thought I would just throw a bunch of stuff out there. So here we go. These are a bunch of various tips in no particular order, just sort of a free flow from my experience over the last 3 years playing the game. So let's take a look at them. Practice from the drop zones. Not all drop zones, but anything that's like 150 feet and under, I would say, because some drop zones in the game are just ridiculous. But if they're under 150 feet, practice them because they don't always play at the distance they show, obviously. Sometimes they're a lot less, sometimes they're more, but those will save you some strokes because you're probably going to find yourself at the drop zones at just about every hole at some point if you play long enough. When trying to 3-star a course, always grind the ace or the eagle, whatever, on hole 1. Give yourself a buffer. So you got plenty of time. Just take your time and figure out that first hole and then take off from there. Now this is about fairway drivers, really, but distance drivers too, I guess. And it's usually when you're thinking about accurate combined with the second attribute. Glide goes further than windbreak, which goes further than roll. So just know that. And that's just distance. All right, the roll attribute. Most everybody knows this, but if you don't, it gives the disc a sudden stop when landing, turns it into a lawn dart. Very useful. And I've talked about this in a video, but you kind of probably have to dig for it. But you need to learn to play the wind. It's a big factor of success in Disc Golf Valley. And a strong headwind is going to lift the disc. A tailwind will lift it, but not quite as much. And I put what I use approximately as far as adjustments for headwinds and tailwinds. Crosswinds are kind of the same thing as a headwind, maybe just a little bit less than a headwind, obviously. So, but practice in a wind and your scores will improve. All right, spitouts, big thing in the game, very frustrating, can cost you a round. To minimize them, and I don't think you can eliminate them, but to minimize them, you want to lower your aim so it hits the bottom half of the chains and use only enough power to get to the basket. And also I'd say, when you can, and under 30 feet, I will putt, because putts are most of the time less likely to spit out. But I mean, I've had a 13-foot putt spit right out. So again, to minimize them, some strategies. All right, and most people probably know this, but the accurate attribute should be on. It's recommended to be on any disc that is 11 speed or under. And what that does is it reduces the wobble, which is the wobble of the background when the power disc is pulled back. And so you look at a bag, you really, first thing you should do is 11 speed and under, does it have an accurate attribute? If not, probably should. Yeah, this one, I'm guilty of not doing this enough, but I do think about it. When throwing an upshot, when you got like a 3 or a 4 wind particularly, try to land when you got your back to the wind, because the tailwind's not going to lift your disc near as much as a headwind. This is big. You want to know the approximate backhand and forehand distances for all disc in your bag. It's not only important for tee shots, it's important for scrambling. when you find yourself in a weird place, you got to know what disc is going to get me safely on the green. And what I like to do is I practice in a one win, and then I can adjust those distances for other wins. Practice throwing rollers. If you don't know, all you do is pull the power disc up to the far end of either side of the Wi-Fi band and let her go. And you want to aim about 30 degrees off from where you want the roller to actually go. But it's an extremely valuable shot. It can be the longest shot in the game in the right circumstances. But it's just a very valuable shot to have in the bag. Did I skip one? No. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. This is more applicable to ranked multiplayer. Don't go crazy on hole one. You're probably not going to win it on hole one, but you might lose it. So unless it's a really super safe ace run, I always like to start out hole one conservatively and then go from there. Besides adjusting for wind, you also need to adjust for elevation. And I'm not going to read this. You can read it. But you have to just make a guess on the difference between your lie and the basket, if that's what you're shooting for, hopefully. The game doesn't tell you that. But with experience, you can start to dial that in and know various spots, approximate elevation. So, and then you want to make the adjustments per the directions on the screen. And this is approximate. Yeah, I think a lot of players maybe get stuck on this. Don't always just pull straight back. Play with release angles. Go to the practice range or go to a hole and see what different discs do with different release angles. Practice flexing a disc for maximum distance. You want to use the release angles to shape your shot. Because it's, disc golf and the game in the Valley, it's the same thing. It's all about shot shape and shot distance. So practice different release angles. Yeah, I threw this one in there. If you're a newer player, just try not to spend any money until you've got at least 30,000 coins. That's because the glide skip rive is still the grail, still the longest bomber in the Valley. And it shows up in the shop usually about twice a year. And when it does, it's going to cost 30,000 coins. And you don't want to be grinding for 10,000 coins to try to get that. So this is huge. One of the things that separates top players from mediocre players is the ability to throw in. And start with a disc. Just pick a disc, fuse or claymore, whatever is your preference, or hope, whatever you want. But pick a disc and stick with it and practice till you can consistently drain it from under 100 feet and then work out from there. Yeah, you probably know this already, but the ground in the Valley is not homogeneous. So there are areas where if your skip disc hits it, it's not going to skip. And then there's other areas where it'll skip. So you want to take note of these areas. A lot of times, like on Oak Hill 3, if you get more in the middle of the fairway, you're more likely to experience a dud skip. So just take note of those and try to avoid those areas in the future. This is one, if you've been playing for a while, you probably know this, but this is kind of a frustrating aspect of the game. I wish this wasn't true. I wish all the bushes had the same collision, but they don't. Sometimes your disc will fly straight through, and sometimes it won't, and sometimes it won't even get close. Like the Beast is the worst. It's got major collision. So just try your best to take note of which ones those are. That'll save you some strokes. And also, too, if you don't already know, you can sometimes literally throw through a rock. If you can maneuver the slide to slide your disc completely into the object, a lot of times you'll be able to throw right through it. It's kind of weird, but it's a little, I won't call it a glitch, but it's usable in the valley. Yeah, and lastly, have fun. I see so many people complain about, oh my God, this game just isn't any fun anymore. Well, I'm like, well, take a break and come back and see if you still like it. If you don't, then, maybe the game's not for you. But really, I mean, I think, it's a recreational activity, obviously. And if you're not having fun, then you need to at least take a break. It's supposed to be fun. So, all right. That's it. Hope you enjoyed those tips, and we'll see you around the valley.